It usually hits you when everything finally goes quiet. No notifications, no voices, no distractions left to hold you together. And suddenly you feel it, that hollow pull in your chest, like something important just stepped out of the room without saying goodbye. You tell yourself you're fine, you chose the quiet, you even needed it. But the silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels watchful, like it's waiting for you to admit something you don't want to name. You sit there, maybe lying in bed, maybe staring at the ceiling. And your mind starts reaching outward. You wonder who might be thinking of you. You replay the last message you sent. You reread the tone. You imagine how it landed, and without meaning to, you're already somewhere else. In a future moment, in a conversation that hasn't happened. In a version of yourself trying not to need too much, you don't feel lonely all the time. That's what makes it confusing. You can be strong all day, capable, present, but at night, when there's no one watching you perform being okay, something soft inside you starts to ache. It's not just wanting company. It's wanting reassurance without asking for it. It's wanting someone to stay without you having to be impressive or useful or calm, and that want feels dangerous. So your mind steps in. It starts scanning. Did you say too much earlier? Did you say too little? Did your silence mean something to them? Did their silence mean something about you? You tell yourself not to spiral. You tell yourself you're imagining things, but the thoughts keep circling anyway. You remember moments where closeness disappeared suddenly. Times when warmth turned distant without warning. Times when you didn't know you were losing someone until they were already gone. Your body remembers those moments, even if you try not to. It remembers the shock, the confusion, the quiet after. So now, when things go quiet again, something inside you tightens. You start preparing for absence before it arrives. You brace yourself emotionally, just in case. You rehearse what you'll tell yourself if someone pulls away. You tell yourself you won't be surprised this time. You tell yourself you'll see it coming. And maybe that's why silence feels so loud to you. Because silence once meant loss. You don't panic in obvious ways. You don't beg. You don't chase. You do something quieter. You imagine. You imagine conversations where you explain yourself perfectly. You imagine arguments where you finally say the right thing. You imagine being understood completely, even though it hasn't happened yet. Those imaginary moments feel safer than real ones, because no one can leave in your head. But after the imagining fades, the quiet returns. And with it, that old fear. The fear that needing closeness makes you fragile. The fear that wanting reassurance makes you a burden. The fear that if someone sees how deeply you feel, they might slowly step back. So you learn to hold your emotions carefully. You ration them. You edit them. You try to be easy to be with. And when you're alone, when there's no one to perform for, all that careful holding gets heavy. Your mind starts replaying moments from years ago. Tiny moments, looks, pauses, unanswered messages. You wonder if you misread something. You wonder if you were too much or not enough. You tell yourself you shouldn't still think about it, but your body never got closure. So it keeps asking the same question, late at night, in the dark. You don't want to feel dependent on anyone. You value independence. You pride yourself on handling things alone. But there's a quiet contradiction inside you. You want closeness. You just don't trust it to stay. So when everything is quiet, when there's nothing distracting you from that truth, it feels lonely in a very specific way. Not empty. Uncertain. Like you're waiting for something to disappear. You check your phone even though you know there's nothing new. You scroll old conversations. You look for signs that you mattered. And if you find one, it soothes you for a moment. If you don't, the ache deepens. You don't need constant attention. You just need to know you're not forgotten when you're not present. That's the part you don't say out loud, because it sounds vulnerable. And vulnerability for you has always come with a risk. So instead, you stay quiet. You let the thoughts keep you company, even when they're exhausting. And as the night stretches on, you wonder why being alone feels heavier than it should. You wonder why your mind won't rest, why it keeps scanning for connection, even when you're trying to sleep. You don't realize it, but a part of you is listening for footsteps, for proof that someone is still nearby. And when it hears nothing, it assumes the worst. Take a breath here. Just for a moment. Stay with this feeling, because there's more underneath it, You're not just afraid of being alone, you're afraid of getting comfortable and then being left. That fear learned to hide inside your quiet moments. It learned to speak softly, to show up as overthinking. It tells you to stay alert, to stay prepared, to never fully relax into connection. So when the world finally goes silent, it gets loud. And you lie there carrying memories, futures, and feelings all at once. Wondering why rest feels so far away. Pause. Let that land. Now keep listening. Because beneath the fear, beneath the imagining and replaying, there's something even more tender. There's the part of you that learned early on that closeness could be unpredictable. That affection could change shape without warning. That love didn't always come with safety. So you adapted. You became observant, emotionally intelligent, aware of shifts in tone that others don't even notice. You learned to read rooms, to feel when someone's energy changed, to sense distance before it was spoken. That skill kept you safe once. But now, in the quiet, it keeps you awake. Because your mind doesn't turn off when there's nothing happening. It fills the silence with possibilities. Most of them painful. You imagine people drifting. You imagine being replaced. You imagine being remembered fondly, but not chosen. And that imagined future hurts almost as much as the past did. You tell yourself you're being dramatic. You tell yourself you should stop thinking like this. But the thoughts aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect you from surprise. They believe that if you expect loss, it will hurt less. So they keep you alert, even when you're exhausted. You crave closeness, but you don't trust calm. Calm feels temporary, like the quiet before something changes. So when the night settles and everything slows down, your nervous system doesn't celebrate. It waits. You think about how you'd respond if someone pulled away. You practice being okay with it. You rehearse dignity. And in doing so, you distance yourself emotionally before anyone else can. That distance feels lonely, but it feels safer than being surprised. You don't want to need reassurance. You just want to feel secure without asking. You want someone to stay consistent enough that your mind can finally rest. But until that happens, the quiet keeps triggering old questions. Am I still important when I'm not useful? Am I still loved when I'm not present? Am I still wanted when I'm not giving anything? Those questions don't need answers right now. They just want to be acknowledged. And maybe this is the first time you've let yourself hear them without judgment. You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not weak for struggling in silence. You learn to survive emotional uncertainty by staying alert. Of course, quiet feels unsafe. Of course, loneliness shows up when there's nothing to distract you from that truth. You don't need to fix anything tonight. You don't need to figure yourself out. Just notice this. The part of you that aches in the quiet isn't asking for drama. It's asking for safety. And for now, it's okay to simply let that realization sit with you. No conclusions, no resolutions. Just the gentle understanding that the loneliness you feel in silence isn't random. It has a history. And tonight you finally listened, not to the noise, not to the rehearsed explanations, but to the quiet ache underneath it all. That ache doesn't shout. It waits. It shows up when the lights are off and there's nothing left to manage. It shows up as a question you don't fully form, a feeling you don't know how to place. You feel it in your chest first. A slight heaviness, like you're holding something fragile without realizing it. You wonder when you learn to associate calm with danger, when stillness started to feel like the moment right before something changes. You remember times when everything seemed fine, normal, even warm, and then it wasn't. No warning, no explanation that made sense. Just distance. That memory lives quietly inside you. It doesn't interrupt your day. It waits until night. That's why your mind doesn't rest when the world does. It's not bored. It's vigilant. It's scanning the quiet the way it once scanned people, looking for shifts, listening for absence. You tell yourself you enjoy being alone, and in many ways you do. You like the control, the lack of pressure, the space to breathe without being observed. But there's a difference between solitude and emotional isolation. And your body knows the difference, even if your mind argues with it. Solitude feels chosen. Isolation feels assumed. In the quiet, your thoughts start to lean toward the second one. You think about how easily people move on and how quickly dynamics change, how replaceable everyone feels when you zoom out far enough. You hate thinking like that. It feels cynical. But it also feels honest. So you sit with it. You let the thoughts pass through you like slow waves. Sometimes you imagine what it would feel like to fully relax with someone, to not monitor your words, to not measure your tone. You imagine falling asleep without wondering if you said something wrong earlier. You imagine not needing to reread old messages for reassurance. That image feels comforting and distant because closeness for you has always come with conditions, unspoken ones. Be calm, be understanding. Don't ask for too much. You learned to sense when your presence was becoming inconvenient. You learned to pull back before being pushed. So now, even when no one is pushing, you still pull. You do it quietly, internally. You tell yourself you don't need anyone. You remind yourself that relying on yourself is safer. And it is, in some ways. But safety without connection feels cold. That's what you feel in the quiet. Not panic, not despair, coldness. Like you're emotionally self-sufficient, but still touch-starved, in a way that has nothing to do with physical touch. You crave to be known without having to explain yourself, to be missed without having to disappear first. That craving scares you. Because once upon a time, wanting closeness meant risking loss. And loss didn't just hurt. It disoriented you. It made you question your instincts, your worth, your memory of what was real. So now you keep part of yourself guarded, even from people you care about. You share, but not everything. You connect, but not fully. And when the night comes, when there's no one left to partially connect with, you feel the weight of what you're holding back. Your mind starts filling the gaps. You imagine what others are doing without you. You imagine conversations happening elsewhere. You imagine being an afterthought. You don't want to think these things. They just appear. They feel intrusive, unfair. But they come from a place that once needed to be prepared. You've always been good at emotional forecasting, at sensing what might go wrong. It kept you from being blindsided. It kept you composed. But it also trained you to expect distance, even in closeness. So when nothing is happening, your mind creates something, because uncertainty feels worse than imagined disappointment. At least imagined disappointment feels familiar. You notice how tired you are, not physically, emotionally. Tired of being the one who understands, the one who adjusts, the one who doesn't ask for reassurance because you don't want to pressure anyone. You wonder who would show up for you if you stopped being so careful, if you stopped managing everyone else's comfort. That thought feels risky. So you set it aside. You tell yourself this is just how you are, independent, thoughtful, quietly intense. But late at night, the labels don't comfort you. What comforts you is the idea of someone staying. Not dramatically, not loudly, just consistently. Someone whose presence doesn't trigger your vigilance. Someone whose silence doesn't feel like a test. You don't need promises. You need predictability. That's the part no one ever names. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of emotional whiplash, of going from close to distant without explanation, of feeling safe one moment and uncertain the next. So you try to control what you can, your reactions, your expectations. And when you can't control the outside, you control the inside by thinking, by preparing, by imagining. That's why the quiet feels so active to you. Your mind is working overtime, trying to keep you safe from something that isn't even happening right now. You know this, and knowing it doesn't immediately stop it. Because awareness doesn't erase patterns that once kept you safe. You lie there, listening to the subtle sounds of the night, the hum of something distant, the faint reminder that the world is still moving. And for a moment, you feel very small inside it, not insignificant. Just unheld. That's when the loneliness sharpens. It's not dramatic. It doesn't beg for attention. It just sits beside you. You wonder if others feel this too. If anyone else lies awake, mentally replaying moments of connection, trying to extract reassurance from memory. You wonder if the people you care about ever feel the same ache when things go quiet. That question has no answer. And somehow, that's what hurts. Because uncertainty has always been the hardest part for you. You don't need constant closeness. You just need to know where you stand. And silence never tells you that. So you fill it with meaning, even when that meaning hurts. You imagine worst-case scenarios, not because you want them to happen, but because you want to be ready if they do. Readiness feels like control. And control feels like safety. But control also keeps you tense That tension lives in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the way your thoughts refuse to slow down. You're always bracing. And tonight, maybe for the first time, you notice how heavy that brace has become. You notice how much energy it takes to stay guarded, to stay prepared, to stay emotionally upright when no one is watching. You don't judge yourself for it. You're too tired for that. Instead, you let the realization settle. The loneliness you feel in quiet moments isn't a flaw. It's a signal. Not a signal that something is wrong with you. A signal that part of you learned to associate connection with uncertainty. That part doesn't need fixing. It needs gentleness. And maybe just for tonight, gentleness looks like not arguing with your feelings, not trying to outthink them, just letting them exist without turning them into a problem. You don't have to solve your attachment patterns. You don't have to understand your past perfectly. You just have to let yourself be here, breathing, listening, not alone in this moment, even if you feel alone in the world. Because right now, someone is speaking to you in the quiet, not to change you, not to diagnose you, just to sit with you. And maybe that's enough for this night. No answers, no conclusions, just the soft understanding that your loneliness has a story. And tonight, you didn't run from it. You stayed. And somehow, that makes the quiet feel a little less empty.